your names won't show up or anything like that. When you ask a question, the names won't show up. So please still ask questions. This class and this concept is probably the most important thing you can learn, understanding pH. It is why oftentimes protocols fail. There's two people that can take the same protocol that need the same stuff. One will work for them, one it won't. And understanding the pH is paramount. There's a lot of misinformation about pH. I'm going to give you a couple of them. This one says that the saliva should be between 6.0 and 7.4. Another one says between 5 and 8. Still another 5.6 to 7.9, 7.0 to 7.5, 6.5 to 7.5, 6.29, 8, 7.8, 6.4. So who's right? Well, a lot of the information came from back in 1931 and 1946. There's a gentleman named Otto Warburg. And what he did is he took people whose pH was 6 and people whose pH was 7. And he found out that people who had a higher pH had less of a chance of getting cancer. Matter of fact, he said that cancer cannot thrive in an alkaline medium. This is incorrect. Matter of fact, I mean, it's great what he did. I'm not trying to undermine what he did because he made people pay attention to pH, which was amazing. But I have a dear friend, or had a dear friend, who her pH was always 7.0 or 7.5. And I used to tease her. I said, you know, you'd feel healthier if you got rid of it, get your pH normal. And she said, well, at least I won't get cancer. Well, not only did she get cancer once, but she got it 3 times. And the 3rd time, she lost her life to cancer. And we couldn't get her pH to budge. So her pH was always 7.0 or higher, and she still got cancer. So although this gentleman has done great strides in bringing to light the importance of pH, his information isn't 100% correct. And again, please ask a lot of questions along the way because it's undoubtedly the most important thing you can learn is this. The pH scale goes, and pH stands for potential of hydrogen. That's just what pH stands for. But basically what it means is how acid something is or how base something is. Distilled water should be a 7. It's neutral, neither acidic nor alkaline. Hydrochloric acid should be actually 1.7. They have 0.01, but it should be 1.7, although it can go lower than that. Well, I said that's the synthetic. This is the stomach form. Okay, so hydrochloric acid can take a piece of metal, like a razor blade, and dissolve it because of the acid. Lemon juice is very acidic, number 2. However, lemon juice is really weird in that outside of the body it's acidic. But once the body uses it, it's alkaline. And we're going to talk more about that later on. So vinegar, sodas, tomatoes is another one. It's acidic outside the body, but inside the body it becomes alkaline. Coffee is very acidic, and so on. Things that are alkaline are like lye, oven cleaner, baking soda, ammonia. Oops, this is baking soda. I don't know what washing soda is. But these are alkaline. neither extremity is healthy for the body. The body needs to be pretty much in here. Most of the body parts need to be right in this area. And we're going to take them individually. But if something is too acidic, it burns the tissues of the body. But if it's too alkaline, it poisons the body. If you notice on this scale here, we're talking about poisons. So alkalinity poisons, acidity burns. Either way, you have symptoms of destruction of the tissue. Matter of fact, if you just go by symptoms alone, if someone has an 8 pH or a 5 pH, their symptoms would mimic each other, which would be cell death, death of your cells. Although they're caused by one's being burnt to death, one's being poisoned. I suggest, therefore, that you get pH test strips. They're very cheap. They're like $12, $13 for 100 of them or 50 of them, something like that. Mine usually lasts me, my personal batch lasts me about a year. I go through about 5 a year for the people that come to me. So it's not that expensive at all. But you want to make sure you got the right ones. You want them in increments of 0.5 or better or lower. The first set that I got was from a pharmacist, and they were 4.0, then it went up to 6.0, and then it went up to 8.0, and you can't tell enough from that. What you do in the strip, and you want to get a strip that has plastic on the one side and a litmus paper on the other side so that you don't touch the litmus paper because the pH of your skin can change the test. So they have some that are like in rolls like this, and you pull them out and you rip them and you spit on it, but you're touching the area that is being tested, and they can't affect it. So it's better to get the ones that have the plastic strips so you don't touch it. You take one of these strips, and you can urinate on one and test it to see what color it is. Because as this touches a liquid, it will change color, usually, unless, of course, you have the 5.0 pH. But it will change color, and you match the color to a little scale that comes with it, and it will tell you, okay, your pH is 6.5, 6.0, 5.5, 5.0, whatever. Then you take another one and you test your saliva. This scale is logarithmic. So some people say, oh, I'm supposed to be a 6.5 and it's a 6.3. That's not that big of a deal. It's like 2 points, not even 2 points. But the difference between 6.3 and 6.4 are 10 units. The difference between 5.5 and 6.5 is 100 units. That's extremely significant. Okay, there's some more people came in. Any questions about this so far? Okay. This is how pH changes. Let's say you're born and your pH is 6.5, and you're getting formula, which starts changing your pH, or because the formula is acidic, or maybe emotional. You know, you have a mom that abuses you or something like that. what happens is you start producing acid. When that happens, the body will rob from a reserve that you have to bring the pH back up to normal. The places of reserves are your bones, your respiratory tract, your digestive tract, in the gallbladder, things like that. So you'll steal minerals from there to bring your pH to where it should be. That's how it does. If you know someone who's slightly acidic, then you want to give them a regular calcium, a good calcium. Calcium, magnesium, a 1:2 to 1:1 ratio, with some vitamin D and things that they can absorb it by. And that will bring it up. And if you do that, then the reserves of your bone will stay where it should be. If you don't have this calcium, then the body is going to rob from the bones to get the pH to where it should be. Okay, everybody with me? Since you're also quiet, how about typing in yes or something, or saying yes, so that I know that I haven't lost you totally. Okay, we've got a couple yeses. Because I have no problem stopping and explaining something if it's confusing, because this is that important. I got until tomorrow at 9 o'clock, so don't worry about time either. Okay, so since there's no questions, let's try this. After your reserve of your body is low, you're at the verge of osteoporosis, or you might end up with acid reflux or something like that. When the body no longer can safely rob minerals to protect the tissue, it will cause the liver to produce ammonia. And that usually takes your pH to over-alkaline. The reason why I knew that the 7.0 that Otto Warburg had said was perfect pH wasn't true is because a friend of mine and I went to a health food store. And at the time, my friend had been an alcoholic for 30 years, so she drank nothing but alcohol, had a very upheavaled life, and the only food that she would eat was a cup of soup once in a while that she heated up in the microwave. And we went there. Her pH was like 7.2, something like that, maybe 7.5. I remember it's a little over 7.0. And the health food attendant or manager said, "Oh my goodness, you have wonderful pH. I wish I had your pH. It's just wonderful." In the meantime, my friend had had so many health problems that she looked like literally she was dying, but yet her pH was this high. And I thought, no. Mine was 6.5, and she said, oh, you better start changing your diet and stuff like that. And I ate a really good diet, especially at that time. So there's something wrong here. Then when I read books, and there's some books you can read. One is called Your Healthier Choice by Dr. Ted Morter. Another one's called Alkalize and Die by Dr. Brody. So you understand that why people become over-alkaline is not because necessarily they're eating a lot of the good stuff. It might be that they're so depleted that their body's producing ammonia. So this is, phase 2 of a pH imbalance. Then, when your body has gone to the point that it can no longer produce ammonia, then your pH drops way low, around 4.0, even 5.0. And usually you'll know when you're in phase 3, which is the last phase of a pH imbalance, because both your urine and your saliva will be acidic. Urine and saliva show different things, but whenever both of them are acidic, that means you're in phase 3. So there's a lot of people say, oh, well, I think you should just test your saliva. And other people say, no, just your urine. Ultimately, testing both is best, because it's the only way that you know for sure that you're in phase 3. So, all right, let's just see what's happening, how you add regular calcium. Remember if I said if you're acidic, you can add regular calcium. However, if you're producing ammonia and you are alkaline, and you take a regular calcium to build up your reserve, because your reserve is real low, but you take calcium, and all of a sudden you're feeling even worse. You feel sick. That's because that calcium is adding to the alkalinity and is basically poisoning your cells. Even though calcium is really, really good for you, if you're in an alkaline state, you don't want to take calcium that's going to make you more alkaline. That's why people say, doctor says I'm allergic to calcium. And I know I'm allergic to calcium because I take calcium, I get constipated, my muscles ache, I don't feel good. And I've tried all different kinds of calcium, and even really expensive, good calciums, and it still makes me sick. It was because their body's producing ammonia. Nature Sunshine is a forerunner in teaching people about pH. They have developed something called liquid calcium. And it's not just liquid because it's easier to get it in kids. This is what they did. They took a calcium that was liquid, and it was able, through things like lemons and natural things, to make it acidic. So it does not add to the alkalinity. It's not horribly acidic, but it's acidic. So it does not add to the alkalinity, yet it will build up your calcium reserve. It's the only product that I'm aware of that does that. There might be others, but not that I'm aware of. So if you are alkaline, or if you work with someone who's alkaline, liquid calcium would be the way to go. I usually suggest for an adult 1 ounce in the morning, 1 ounce at night. Once this calcium is built up, the body will no longer produce ammonia. So you will have taken the body from phase 2 back to phase 1 of a pH imbalance. Okay, I drew it like this. Basically, that's what you do. And sometimes they'll go like from 7.5 down to 6.0. That's okay. That just means you turned off the ammonia. You didn't give them too much liquid calcium. You just turned off the ammonia mode. Then you have them take regular calcium. It'll bring it hopefully up to where it should be. If someone is too alkaline or if someone's too acidic, I would still do the good diet of raw vegetables, fresh fruits, and cut out the bad stuff. We'll get to that later on. So either direction, you still want to eat a good diet. It just tells you what kind of calcium is best for you. Because if you're at 7.5 and you take a regular calcium, your body can't absorb it anyhow. That's why people say, I don't understand. I'm taking all this calcium. I might be getting calcium stones, or I get calcium deposits in my hand, but I still have osteoporosis. How can that be? The body can't use the calcium. It just sticks it at places. not in the bones where it belongs. Okay, now we're going to get into specific pHs and what they should be and what they mean. Any questions before that?
Can I ask a question? Yeah, before
absolutely.
you go on. So basically, just to recap, if they're in phase 2, they need the calcium and magnesium.
Correct.
But if they're in phase 3, they need the liquid.
If they're in phase 2, they still need the liquid calcium.
Okay. So the liquid calcium has the magnesium in it also, or?
Okay, wait a minute. Say that again?
Okay, if they're in phase 2, they need the calcium magnesium, right?
No, in phase 2 they need the liquid calcium because that means that they have an alkaline saliva.
Okay.
Phase 1, they need regular calcium. This is phase 1. Okay? Phase 2, they need the liquid calcium.
And in phase 3 also?
No, phase 3, they need the regular calcium again because they're no longer alkaline, they're acidic. So in phase 1, you're acidic. Phase 2, you're alkaline. Phase 3, the body can't produce ammonia anymore. It's done. It can't protect you at all, and you go back to being acidic. Does that make sense?
So yeah, I have a child that he was just diagnosed with acid reflux. Mm-hmm. So in his case, he would probably need the liquid.
We don't know. You'd have to test the pH. Okay. Like I said up here, you can't tell one way or the other. They seem the same. You know,
right.
If he's very thick, very alkaline, the only way you're going to know for sure is if you test.
Okay.
And then from that test, you decide if he's in phase 1, which is regular calcium, phase 2, which is the liquid calcium, phase 3, which is the regular calcium again.
Okay. And when you talk about regular calcium, you're talking calcium and magnesium.
Of course, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D. Yes.
Okay.
And a good source and a good balance.
So in the Nature Sunshine product, isn't that I think it says calcium D?
Yeah, vitamin calcium with D, yeah.
Yeah.
All of Nature Sunshine products has calcium and magnesium in a decent ratio, no worse than 1 to 2. And they have vitamin D with them. All of them do.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And so to be able to know that. Now so what I did is I told you about the 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3. Then we start talking about phase 2 again. So I think that's how I confused you. This is the phase 2 where you're alkaline. When I talked about the liquid calcium. Okay. What do I think of skeletal strength? For anyone who is over 30, I think skeletal strength is an amazing product. Matter of fact, it was developed by Mark Pedersen, and I think Jack Richardson had something to do with it. And the story goes that at 85, I think 85 or 87, I remember what the numbers are. But let's say 85. His mother had osteoporosis so bad that she had to be put in a wheelchair. So he did all kinds of biochemists, and he did all kind of, Mark Pedersen that is, all kind of testing and to see what would be best for his mother, the best balance of everything. And from the time she was 85 to 87, she totally reversed her osteoporosis, which is like unheard of at that age. So it was either 85 to 87 or 87 to 89. I just remember it took 2 years and 87 was in there. I can't remember which. So I think it's an amazing product. If you know. It's called Skeletal Strength. Skeletal Strength would be okay for phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 and phase 3. Phase 2, I would only do liquid calcium. So for this phase, when you're acidic, this phase, when when you're acidic, I would do skeletal strength or regular calcium. And then if you're alkaline, I would do the liquid calcium. So did I straighten that out? Write the product's name. Okay, it's skeletal. Well, my spelling's not very good. So how do you spell skeletal? I'm a much better herbalist than I am a speller. That's supposed to be an R. Skeletal strength. That's the name of the product. Skeletal strength. Good. What about difference between Nature Sunshine Cal-Mag and Synpro Cal-Mag? Okay, the difference between the regular Cal-Mag and Synpro is Synpro is made of cruciferous vegetables. So Cal-Mag is good for anybody. Synpro is a little bit cheaper and it's good for everybody unless you have a thyroid problem. If you have a thyroid problem, there's a little bit too much cruciferous vegetables in there and it can drag it down a little bit. The person who makes it is Nature Sunshine. Be really, really careful with your calcium. You know, they can make calcium just about out of anything. Even cement contains calcium. But you can't go out and suck on your sidewalk and get what you need. You need a really good source. And you want to make sure that it's balanced. Again, I would never do more than 2 calciums to 1 magnesium. Preferably 1 to 1 for an adult. Children usually get away with a 2 to 1. And make sure there's vitamin D. And it's made from good things. But no fried eggs on a hot day. Yeah, so you would get your protein and your calcium. But no, that doesn't work. Good try. Okay. So any questions about that? If not, please let me know. The lady who asked the question, does that make more sense? Well, okay, no problem. Okay, so now let's go and see what the different pHs should be. Urine can bounce around. It can be acidic sometimes as long as it's not acidic all the time. What urine tells you is this, how your body is correcting the pH, if it's using minerals or if it's using ammonia, and how effectively it can do that. The reason why the urine bounces around in the kidney is, let's say you have an acid molecule. This is something that's, the pH is really bad. If it went through the kidney at, say, 5.0, it would damage the kidney. You'd end up with kidney damage, possibly kidney cancer. Inflammation in the kidney can turn into cancer. If it's just once in a while you get a 5.5, that's not bad. I wouldn't worry about it. That just means you didn't eat very well that day or you had some kind of emotional upset. But if it's 5.5 all the time, that's not good. Not at all. I like to see it around 6.5. The saliva shows you something different. and the saliva's pH should be between 6.3 to 6.6. Saliva tells you what the cells are being bathed in every day. So you have a bunch of cells in your body, and they're constantly being swished around with fluid. This fluid brings in nutrients, and it helps siphon out toxins. So this fluid around the cell is the same as the fluid in your saliva, the same pH. As long as you haven't eaten or drank anything. Now, if you brush your teeth or smoke or drink or chew gum or something like that, that will change your saliva pH. I'm talking about first thing in the morning, haven't done anything all night long, pH of your saliva. Matter of fact, your saliva will change during the day, but I believe it's best to know what's happening first thing in the morning, because that's what pH your body was in all night long when it heals. So some people say, oh, do the second saliva. I don't believe that. I think the first one is the best. If this membrane, if the pH in the fluid is normal, the membrane will be one cell thick. So the nutrients can get in and the toxins can get out. However, if you are too alkaline, if that fluid around the cell is too alkaline or too acidic, the membrane will get a little bit thicker. Of course, this is not to scale. It's just to show you visually that it gets thicker. Much like if you have a callus on your hand. If you constantly, like I pretend once in a while like I play a guitar, so the tips of my 3 fingers on my left hand have a callus on them. And that constant irritation, the body made it a little bit thicker to be able to tolerate that. The body will make the cell thicker to protect it. The only bad thing is, when it does that, it's harder for nutrients to get in and harder for toxins to get out. Different cells of the body are more sensitive to pH. So, if you want your thyroid to be able to absorb iodine, the pH needs to be between 6.3 and 6.6. At 7.0, your body can't absorb iodine. It can only absorb from the yellow, the pink, and the green. So it can only absorb from here out. If it's 7.0. If it's 6.0, it can only absorb from here out. I have worked with a lot of people with thyroid problems. And they'll come to me and they'll say, I took the thyroid activator that my other naturopaths told me to take, and it didn't do anything for me, nothing at all. I'll test her pH, and her pH might be 7.2 or something like that. Well, of course not, because the nutrients never got inside of the thyroid, the cells of the thyroid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. There's some people, like my friend with, I think she's a 7.5 if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if it's 7.2 or 7.5, but I'm pretty sure it's 7.5. So basically, she was not absorbing any of her minerals, any of her nutrients. She's just living on sugar water and a few minerals. That's it. That's why she was falling apart. People, whenever their pH is 7.5, and now that you can drink things like alkaline water, and I'm not anti-alkaline water, but I know people that drink 9 alkaline water all the time. They keep their pH around 7.5, and they feel like crap, and they don't understand why. A very dear person of mine tells me that all the time. And he's having tumors growing and all kind of things, and that's because he can't absorb his nutrients. So this is where I like to see people's saliva pH be. It makes sense to me if this is where your body can absorb these nutrients, then that's where it should be. It's kind of common sense. Now this chart is hard for some people to read, and this chart is on my website if you need it. There's one that you can print out, and there is, or you can just look at it, whichever way you want to. But it was hard for some people to understand, so I made this chart up. This chart was made up from science students that did the testing. This one's my chart. Basically, it means that at 6.5, you can absorb all these nutrients. At 6.0, you're absorbing less nutrients. These ones right here you can't absorb. At 5.5, you absorb even less. And at 5.0, you're basically living off of sugar water. Well, that's sweet of you. I did it because a lot of people are having a hard time reading the other. So, and here it is going up, too. There's less that you absorb, less that you absorb, until you're just living on sugar water. A lot of people hold on to excess weight because of acid. There's some people that say no matter what I do to try to lose weight, I cannot lose weight. I don't understand it. I exercise, I don't even lose weight. If the body doesn't have enough minerals to neutralize the acid in the tissue, it won't let go of it. Because if it does, it knows it will destroy your kidneys or your intestines. So there's some people, not all people, but there's some people that once they correct their pH, they lose weight a lot easier. There's also a cancer connection. I've read in a couple books where it says that acid feeds cancer. That's not really correct. It doesn't feed it. This is what it does. Let's say you have an abnormal cell here. When the immune system sees this abnormal cell, it will get enzymes and bring the enzyme to the cell. It will make a little hole in here, a little pore, and all the fluid outside of it will go in and it'll burst, much like if you put a balloon on a water faucet and turn it on. It'll burst into small pieces. Then the immune system can take the little pieces away, because the immune system cannot take one whole cell away like that. Enzymes, however, cannot work where there's acid. Most enzymes. Pepsin needs acid, but most need an alkaline medium. So if there's a lot of acid here, and the immune system brings this little enzyme to get rid of the cancer, the acid kills the enzyme, makes it ineffective, and it can't get to that cell. so then another cell can grow, and they can replicate, and that's how cancer develops. So there is a connection. If your pH was absolutely perfect, it'd be a lot harder to get cancer and a lot easier to get over it if you did get it. As a matter of fact, most of us get cancer several times in our lifetime. Who knows? I might have cancer in me today. All of you might have cancer in you today. But if your body has the right stuff, the body can get rid of that cancer. And pH is a big part of that. So we went through saliva, which is the same as the cells, the fluid around the cells, and your urine. Now I'm going to talk about blood. I have a whole class on cholesterol, fats, and fat and drugs, but I do want to cover a little bit what happens if the blood pH is off. Your blood pH should be 7.41. Now, you can't go testing your own blood because this has to be blood in the artery. And you can't do that on your own. But if your pH is normal, then your blood pH will be normal. So you don't have to be able to test your blood pH. Now, remember I said about if something irritates the cells, they'll get thicker? Well, let's say the blood going through your arteries are acidic, too acidic, or too alkaline. At 7.35, you can still live. At 7.45, you can still live. But it's either too alkaline or too acidic. So it's going to irritate the walls of your artery. In response to that, the body will line your artery, usually with cholesterol. And that's what causes buildup in your arteries. It's not how much cholesterol is in your blood. Matter of fact, they studied centurions, people who lived to be between 90 and 100 years old, that never had bypass surgery, never had a heart attack or a stroke, and their cholesterol goes up to 400. Matter of fact, in this one study that there was, the lowest was 250, and most of them went up to 350 to 400. What is the pH of carbonated water? I don't know. You'd have to get a pH strip and test it. I do know that reverse osmosis water is a little bit acidic. I know that seltzer water, and I don't know if that's the same as carbonated water or not, is acidic because it has phosphoric acid in it and carbolic acid in it. I don't know if that's what carbonated water is or not. I think it is. Isn't it seltzer water? I'm not sure either. I don't drink that kind of stuff, so I'm not really sure. But the best thing you can do is just get a pH strip and dip it in. There's homemade carbonation units. Okay, there might be. I just don't know what that is because I never used it. But it'd be, like I said, get the Soda Stream. Well, all you have to do is take a pH strip and put it in the water and take it out and see what color it turns. That'll tell you. Skin. The pH of skin should be 5.0. Slightly acidic so it can kill any bacteria or viruses that are on the skin. Ironically, a lot of people who are germaphobes wash their hands all the time. They change the pH of their skin, and they're more likely to have a virus or bacteria get into their body. Kind of ironic. But 5.5 is what the pH should be of the skin. If you have to wash your hands, let's say you're a healthcare worker, where you have to wash your hands in between clients, then you might want to use NSP concentrate, which is, I think I spell it, concentrate, which has a pH of 5.5. So you're washing your hands, but yet you're not changing the pH. And breast milk should have a pH of 8.0. For a couple reasons. One thing is the bacillus needs to be able to live in it, and the friendly bacteria, the friendly flora, and if it was acidic, it would kill it. A lot of women's pH is not 8.0, and their babies will get acid reflux. And I think someone asked about a child that has acid reflux. I mean, that can happen if the woman can't breastfeed and has to use a formula. That can cause an imbalance. Poor digestion can cause imbalance, but sometimes it's the mother's breast milk. If the mother's pH is really off, sometimes the breast milk is off. And I've had women tell me that the doctors have suggested Prevacid for their children. Because, remember I said the body will rob calcium out of the bones to change your pH? It will also rob it out of the digestive tract. And then the cardiac sphincter muscle on top of the stomach can't close off, and that's what causes acid reflux. So
The child I was talking about is 12.
Is 12? Okay.
Yeah.
And she might have either poor diet, poor digestion, or she feels stressed. School.
I'm sure it's poor diet.
Poor diet.
Oh, yeah.
That might do it. So for acid reflux, I love slippery elm. Slippery elm does 3 things, and you have to drink it for it to work well. It builds the mucosal lining, because what happens is, this is your esophagus. On top of there is like a rubber band sphincter muscle, much like at the rectum. It's a muscle that pinches off. If this lining is thick in here, then that can be pinched off. If the lining's not thick enough, then the acid can go back up the esophagus, and that's what causes acid reflux. So slippery elm is alkalizing, so it helps change the pH. It also will rebuild this lining. So it says, I take aloe vera pills and would relieve my acid reflux. I don't notice it anymore. Not sure how it helps. Actually, aloe vera is another thing you can use. I just like slippery elm a little bit more. Aloe vera, in my sight, on a scale from 1 to 10, is about an 8. And slippery elm is about a 9.9. So it's pretty much the same concept. I just think slippery elm's a little better.
Cool.
Okay? So that's what I would do. And then I would try to change her diet. Because you still have to worry about her bones and her organs and her glands. Which is hard, I know. My kids were 10 and 11 when I became an herbalist, and trying to change their diet was a nightmare. Okay, water should be 7.0 if you go to a spring, a good spring out there that's been tested. It should be 7.0. Reverse osmosis is slightly acidic. I think mine is like 6.7. I still drink it. I put a little bit of liquid chlorophyll in it, and I make sure that I eat a good diet, and my pH will stay normal. And the reason why RO water is slightly acidic is because some of the minerals are taken out of it. Okay, any question about where the pHs should be? Okay, well, we talked about the lining in the arteries. That's what that is. Okay, now, let's talk about things that causes acid. Emotions are number one. That's why being in a bad relationship is terrible for the body. And not just husband and wife. Friends, especially in school. You know, and I'm not saying it's probably not your child's problem, but these children in school, they have friends that, like, are mean to them and do things like that to them. That's, emotionally, that's very hard. Getting bullied, things like that. So emotions is number one. It can change you very quickly. You're doomed to emotionary. It's hard. Actually, in part, why I'm getting a divorce for the second time. I thought I'd never divorce again. It's not the only reason, but there was such turmoil in our relationship that, well, in the beginning, when we first got married and the turmoil started, I went to the doctor. I said, to the eye doctor, I said, my glasses, there's something wrong with my glasses. I can't get this stuff off. Not the eye doctor, the person who fixes, does your eye thingies, you know. And he said, this glass is etched. You must have poured some acid on it. And I didn't pour any acid on it, but I had been scalded, like underneath my underarms and stuff like that, was getting raw and sore. I was so acidic from the emotions.
I had that before, under
Did
my
you?
arms.
Yep. That can happen whenever there's too much acid in your system. The body's going to get it out to the skin because it can't. So the kidneys will destroy it. So emotions are big, number one. So I don't believe in divorce, which is stupid because I've been divorced twice. But I really don't. But you have to also, if it's killing you, you have to separate yourself. I didn't file for a divorce, but I told my husband we no longer can live together. On the opposite scale, good emotions can be very alkalizing. Falling in love. My grandkids come over and give me a hug all the time. That changes my pH, no doubt. Things like that. Medications can be terrible. They can either make you too alkaline or too acidic. If someone has cancer and they're on pain medicine, I try to get them off the pain medicine by using the ice wave patches. If I can't, then it's really hard because it's hard to get their pH to the point that we can get the enzymes to be able to work, and you know, it's really tough. Coffee, tea, either regular or decaffeinated, because they both have a bad pH, and soda are number three. Milk products, except for butter. Butter has a neutral pH because it's made just with a fat. But milk products are very acidic. Matter of fact, there was a study done that showed that osteoporosis can be caused by taking too much milk products in. Sugar, poor digestion if you burp and bloat and pass gas a lot. What causes the gas is the food ferments, because it isn't broken down the whole way, so it ferments, and that fermentation also produces acid. Processed foods, if you bought anything that's going to last almost as long as you're your age limit should be. You know, like some foods last for 10 years or whatever, something like that. Then you know it's been so processed there's no more enzymes in it, no more nutrients in it. Cooked foods also are acidic. If you take a nice piece of broccoli and you eat it raw, it's alkalizing. If you cook it to death, it's just like a floppy thing, then it's no longer alkalizing. Even juices. When you juice something, you should juice it and drink it. If you wait for a few hours, the enzymes die and it changes and it's no longer alkalizing. But notice it's way down on the bottom. It's still better than all these other things. So I wouldn't say, well, a cup of coffee, a cup of juice is the same thing. No, not at all. Does freeze-drying preserve enzymes? There are some places that, yes, can freeze-dry in a way that they preserve enzymes. There's a couple techniques that preserves enzymes. I don't know which all they are, but there are some. So it doesn't even have to be freeze-dried. There are some way they can keep it a juice liquid, that it keeps the enzymes by some process, but I don't know the name of the process. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit about it, let's talk about some of the symptoms. Whenever you have a pH imbalance, your body will still rob calcium from the lower back and the bones. So your lower back might get weak. When you walk for a while, they'll start nagging at you. May make you more susceptible of getting hurt, or your back injured, or you can develop osteoporosis. It can get so bad that you can actually develop bone cancer. It will rob acid, being acidic will rob from your joints so they can get painful and click. It can put acid in your joints, which will do the same thing, or it can put an over-alkalinity in your joints, which can cause the same thing. Or in your muscles. Fibromyalgia is a pH imbalance. Lupus is a pH imbalance. Arthritis is a pH imbalance. After the body has done a lot of robbing from the bone and the muscles, it usually goes to the digestive tract. We talked about that earlier. If it's in the upper digestive tract, you get heartburn, acid reflux, GERD, which is all basically the same thing. You can even develop an ulcer. Although some ulcers are caused by bacteria, if that lining in your stomach was thick enough, the bacteria would never be able to get to the stomach wall. So it's still all a pH imbalance. If it's also robbing from the lower digestive tract, then you'll have colitis, Crohn's, or irritable bowel syndrome. The next step, the body will start producing mucus. So when you wake up in the morning, you have to like that, or blow your nose on a regular basis. You can end up with sinus problems, asthma. Well, this is from the mucus. Asthma comes from the irritation. The acid goes through the bronchioles, and it inflames them, and they swell. Allergies, if you're allergic to pollen and dust and stuff like that. Now, this is respiratory allergies. We're not talking food allergies here. That's something else. These are all things that basically are your body's way of trying to protect you from the acid or the alkalinity in your body. I believe with everything I am, if your pH was absolutely normal, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you would never have any of these symptoms. Some psoriasis comes from pH imbalance, although most of it comes from the liver. So this is questionable, but it has happened. Galding, like I said about the underarm, or discoloring jewelry, or not being able to tolerate jewelry. There's some people that 12-karat gold isn't good enough. They still get problems. Usually it's because they have a pH imbalance. There's 4 main minerals that the body uses to correct pH. Sodium, and we're not talking salt, so you can't salt your way into a good pH. We're talking about sodium that's found in like slippery elm, aloe vera, cucumbers, vegetables, things like that. Calcium and magnesium and potassium. My favorite source of potassium is parsley. Parsley is an amazing herb. It just does not get the credit it deserves. It's anti-tumoral. It nourishes the pituitary gland, corrects your pH, heals the kidney. It's a natural diuretic. It's just amazing what this little herb can do. So a lot of people just add calcium and magnesium, and they start getting high blood pressure. That's because you also need the potassium. So try to add the good diet. You can't just eat tacos and Twinkies every day and take calcium and be healthy, because you're going to end up with an imbalance. You also have to eat the good raw vegetables, raw fruits. There's no way getting around that. Trust me, if there was, I'd be eating a Twinkie right now, or whatever. On my website, I have a list of foods that are alkaline and acidic. I didn't mean to write through that. It's just circle it. The ones that are most alkaline are grapefruit, lemon. Again, outside the body, they are acid, but inside the body, they're alkaline. What happens is this. Let's say I have a log, and I test the pH of the log, and the log is 5.0. Then I burn that log, and through the process of being burned, the log is 7.0. If I would put that log on a scale, I would say that it's alkalizing, because when it's done what it's supposed to do, it's alkalizing. And that's how it is with grapefruit and lemon. Outside the body is acidic, but when the body uses it, it leaves an alkalizing ash. So it's not necessarily, same with tomatoes in here somewhere. Right here. Tomatoes are acidic outside the body, but when they go through the body, because there's so many minerals in there, whenever it's burned up, it leaves an alkalizing ash. On this chart, like where it says coffee and tea, there'll be an asterisk, which means I wouldn't do it at all. I'd cut it out completely. And this chart, you're more than welcome to print it out. Okay, so that's the diet is a big part. Probably 90% of whether or not you're going to be alkaline is going to be through your diet and emotions. And 80% of your diet should be alkalizing foods. But you do need a little bit of acidic foods. Okay. Remember, liquid calcium is someone that's too alkaline. Then you can use Skeletal-Strength or CalMag, any good calcium for those who are acidic. If you have less than 1 bowel movement a day, I would suggest Skeletal-Strength. If you're over 30, I suggest Skeletal-Strength. If the pH is off in the organs or glands, especially the organs, like the gallbladder, marshmallow root is amazing for that. I've had people in the middle of a gallbladder attack take 4 to 8 marshmallow every half hour to hour, and they'll get through that, but they don't need to get their gallbladder removed. Then after the inflammation's done, they can do a flush if they're able to and stuff like that. Kidney infections. Marshmallow root is very helpful for kidney infections. If it's irritated, I should say kidney inflammation more than kidney infection, is very good. Slippery elm helps more for the digestive tract. Marshmallow is better, like if you want the tube of your ureters, let's say you have your kidneys are here, that's your bladder. And then you have your kidneys. That's not the scale. But the ureters is the tubing that goes from there to there. If there's inflammation in there, marshmallow root is amazing. So I know people that have been passing kidney stones, and they'll say, oh, I'm passing these stones. Man, it's so painful. If they take the marshmallow root, it gets rid of the inflammation, and they can pass the small kidney stones without any discomfort. If you are too alkalized, what happens is bacteria can grow in your bladder. And it can go up the tubes, and you can get a kidney infection, a bladder infection, if you're too alkalized, because the acid keeps the bacteria from growing, keeps it sterile in there. Cranberries are good for people whenever their urine is too alkaline. So is Yuba ursi. Yuba, U-B-A. Should put that in here, forgot. U-R-S-I. Are good whenever you're too alkaline. Another thing that's in cranberry that's not in Yuba ursi is a nutrient that makes the bladder very slippery, and this is the name of the nutrient. So bacteria has a hard time attaching to the wall of the bladder. And when you urinate, you just get rid of all the bacteria. So if you're alkalized, cranberry can be very good. However, if your urine is very acidic and you take cranberry, it's not going to do anything for you if you have a UTI. That's why some people swear by it and other people curse at it. The cranberries. Depends on what your pH is. There's a lot of pH. I already went over sunshine concentrate. I thought it was NST concentrate. I'm sorry. It's sunshine concentrate. No, I think it's NST concentrate. One or the other. Any. You ask them at this thing and they'll tell you. Unit de gato, cat's claw, helps take acid out of the respiratory system and out of the joints and dump it in the intestines. So if you don't have diarrhea and if your intestines are nice and healthy, this is a good way of working with respiratory allergies and joint pain. If, however, you have colitis or Crohn's, I would not take Unit de gato because you don't want more acid going through the intestinal tract. Yucca does the same thing, as does burdock. Sapphires helps break up uric acid that comes from things like meat, beer, stuff like that. It helps break it up, the urea. And then lemons and water. If you're alkaline, if you're acidic, lemons and water can be taken either way and help straighten out the pH. Okie dokie. Are there any questions about any of this? Wow, the class I took an hour and 11 minutes. Usually this is about a 2.5, 3-hour class. Where on the website can we find the recording? If you email me, I'm going to be working on that. I promise I'm going to have it done by January 12th. So if you email me on January 12th by midnight, I'm going to have all the recordings on. I'm going to straighten out my act. I was going to do it during Christmas, but my son's girlfriend left them with their son, and it was just a big mess. So I didn't get near the stuff done that I wanted to get done during the Christmas vacation. But good things are coming out of it, you know. But getting things posted is not. So if you email me, then I will have the stuff on. I promise. If I have to stay up 24 hours a day, I will do it. If you have any questions, I'm not always the easiest person to get a hold of, but you can give me a call or email me. I do really good with email. Telephone, not always. Like during this class, I was getting calls, and of course I didn't answer them. Okay, any other questions about any other health concerns you want to slip in there? Nope. Okie dokie. Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, let me know. There's a lady named Tara Belderock who is easier to get a hold of. You can always get a hold of her as well. She's a very smart lady and knows a lot of her stuff. Well, thank you for coming. All right, I hope you join us in another class, and you all have a good day and a nice weekend. Thank you. Bye, everybody.